Kenyans are betting or gambling 330 billion Kenya shillings annually, while investing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange only 175 billion Kenya shillings. Simply put, Kenyans are staking or betting more than twice what they are investing annually. And that right there is a big concern which we need to talk about. And I'm saying so because I've been reading today's Business Daily newspaper, and I've just seen that particular article about Kenyans over the past 1 year having gambled 330 billion Kenya shillings. That is even almost 9% of our budget. Quite an amount, right? Let's dig right in this to really gain an understanding of what exactly is happening, what these numbers mean, okay? And why are Kenyans choosing the short route? Instead of investing, they are going to gamble. And interestingly, even the amount they gambled is almost the amount which even Kenyans put in the MMFs. So that tells you the gambling situation is impacting different asset classes, which ideally Kenya should be focusing on to build wealth. Let's dig right in this issue. And guys, the biggest issue here is that these statistics are not just numbers. They tell us, or they portray a picture as to how a good chunk of Kenyans think about money, which is a very, very big problem. And the thinking around money is what anchors all this, because there's a difference between gambling and investing. Gambling is taking chance. You are staking on something, hoping for a given outcome. Investing is ownership. And as a country, if we want to prosper, the biggest bet for us should be not in gambling, but in investing, because that's how our youth are going to take ownership. That's how our parents are going to take ownership. That is how the elderly, even as they are aging, are going to still continue enjoying the benefits of investing. So, if 330 billion is staked across different gambling platforms, and only half of that is invested, are we really growing our wealth, or are we throwing money? Because the truth is that also, not all the amounts being bet out there or gambled are being won, okay? Are gamblers out there regretting that maybe that amount could have been used even to invest or something alternative? I don't know, but in this video, you'll really understand the psychology behind this and why we need to have a change now and now for us to be able to really remodel our thinking around money. And even for us to really understand what is going on. Why are so many Kenyans gambling? Of course, people might argue that, yes, there are adverts out here which are portraying gambling, right? Or maybe there's a high number of football fanatics, therefore, as part of their entertainment, they also gamble. I'd like to think those are just arguments, and I'm saying so because the main thing which is underlying gambling, which is also partly psychological and the thinking about money, is that desire for instant results. Simply put, someone hears maybe, after this game, in case you did bet appropriately, you'll get twice the amount of money. That is desire for instant result. The same amount of money if they hear, for example, if you put in the stock market, maybe a share appreciation is going to be 10% at the end of the year, or even the dividend is going to be 8%. That is not appealing. But the desire for instant money or instant result is very, very appealing, which of course is a big issue. And this issue is actually accentuated by issues like low cost of entry. If, for example, you're telling someone you can bet 100 shillings, you can bet 1,000, it starts with 100, they increase to 500. In no time, they're going to be betting their rent. And also the news items out there, for example, airing stories and airing them back to back because there's sensational around winners. Maybe this winner has won a jackpot, okay? That is actually selling the masses hopes. And all these factors are contributing to why so many Kenyans are betting. And even just looking at this particular news article is very confusing because it's actually selling hope and people are buying hope instead of actually buying the actual work they're supposed to do for them to be able to make money. And that is why investing is not popular. And there is reasons as to why that's the case. Investing is going to require an investor to be patient. They need to be able to do their study, know the investment they are getting into before they invest. And once they invest, they need to be patient for them to see their money grow, for them to see their money work for them. That's the difference. An investor is even going to realize their money double maybe in a year or two or three. That is patience. That is implementing strategy and being patient, which also in investing, returns are not immediate. Gambling is promising people once you gamble and you are betting amazingly out here, you're going to get instant return on your investment. Unfortunately, guys, that is a very high enticement. In investing, you are not promised instant returns. In fact, you are being exposed in a volatile market, which of course, for many people out there, that is not very enticing, okay? And also other misconception in our economy, which we need to fix, is that there is a number of people out there who assume investing is for the wealthy. When they hear Nairobi Securities Exchange, they think they can't afford. It is in their mindset, right? They assume people who have money are the ones who need to be putting money in the real estate. And also tied to that, as a country, we have limited financial education. That is why even on this YouTube channel, I do educate people on matters money and investing. I share knowledge because I realize we have limited financial education and literacy. Therefore, people are going for the easy options. When they hear or see an advert around betting, promising a given outcome, they jump right in it. And with that, the big opportunity cost here is that every shilling spent on betting is an opportunity which we are foregoing because money can only be spent once. If, for example, you are working, you're getting a salary, okay? You are paid 50k Kenya shillings. If you decide to put that money on gambling, it means the opportunity to invest, you'll forgo it. The opportunity to start a business, you'll forgo it. Because you spend a particular money, it is gone. And this video is not about attacking gamblers. Of course, we all appreciate and really honor the need of people to entertain themselves in a way that makes sense to them. It is their money. They have worked for it, right? Fair enough. But then again, this actually reflects the broader mindset around money. If as a country in aggregate, please note I'm not talking about an individual gambler, in aggregate, and this data is coming from KRA, because KRA can tell, it typically have 5% withholding tax on actions going on in different gambling platforms. So they know, based on the money they receive, they can compute how much was gambled or was staked. So if our mindset as a country is we prefer immediate reward over delayed reward, what does it mean? The same mindset actually affects savings. It affects investing. It affects business decisions. And that is why the battle isn't between gambling versus investing. It is between short-term thinking and desire for reward versus long-term thinking. Because for a country to prosper, we need to be having long-term thinking. Because the same nuances we are seeing are going to reflect in our society, in how we make decisions, in how government is run, okay? In how we take serious decisions out here. That need for urgent result, instant result, without putting in the work, is going to reflect across board. And that is why, in conclusion, I'd like to summarize that this 330 billion reflects real financial choices. It isn't just like, hey, money was spent in gambling. Those are financial choices, okay? So imagine if more Kenyans will also build long-term investments, right? Alongside their other spending habits, even if gambling is part of them. Most likely, we're going to be able to see this wealth grow, right? More Kenyans will be in a much better financial position. We could see businesses prosper, individuals prosper when it comes to matters money. And a challenge and a question for you. Past 1 year, did you gamble? You don't need to answer. If you can comment down below. Last 1 year, did you invest? If you gambled and you didn't invest, why didn't you invest? Right? Is it because it's a hard decision? Investing isn't a hard decision, right? And that is why, in aggregate, we are seeing 330 billion Kenya shillings going to gambling stakes instead of being invested. And that as a country is going to impact us over time. What do you think about this video, guys?